Hey there, folks. It's Joey here. It's been a long time since I recorded a video specifically for this channel. If you want to hear me more on a regular basis, go to the Movie Squad YouTube channel, where I do videos with my friends. They're more like podcasts, if you will, more audio based. It's just again we all live in different places, so it's easier just to do that rather than everybody convene together and record. So anyway, this is my review for War for the Planet of the Apes. I did a Planet of the Apes retrospective on this channel probably like 3 years ago, so if you want to check out my thoughts on the other films, check that out. But just to recap, Planet of the Apes is one of my favorite franchises, period. The original is one of my favorite movies ever. I have a lawgiver statue in my man cave over there. I don't feel like lifting him because I don't want to endanger him. I have a lot of Planet of the Apes stuff. I have VHS tapes, Funko Pops. I have a Charlton Heston action figure from the first movie. There's a new one that they made, but I have that in my man cave. I have Planet of the Apes posters, and I love Planet of the Apes. It's one of my favorite franchises. I love India. There's like a couple things that I really love: Disney, Indiana Jones, Planet of the Apes, Universal Monsters. You know, they're all like among my favorite things. You can ask anybody. So this new one, I was very excited for, because the first two were so good in my opinion. Rise was a real surprise for a lot of people, and Dawn was just like a sequel that some would argue is even better. I have a hard time deciding which one I like more. It's kind of, some days I like Rise more, other days I like Dawn more. I like both, for the record. But War, let me tell you, I'll say this much about like movies. Sometimes when you look at the PG-13 rating, you can say, oh, I can just bring my kid to this. I mean, because all the Marvel movies are PG-13, and they're generally fine for kids. And you think, oh, I enjoyed Planet of the Apes as a kid, so I'll just take my kid to the new Planet of the Apes. No, this is not a kids movie. That PG-13 rating is kind of deceiving, I want to say. I don't know if it's deceiving, but like when you're so used to PG-13, like the Marvel movies do PG-13, you look at Planet of the Apes and you go, this feels, I don't feel like a kid should be watching this. And usually I'm like, whatever with kids, but this is, again, I know parents out there might be concerned. This is a particularly brutal movie. By the way, I love this movie. It's great. And I have no problem with Planet of the Apes going in this direction, because the original movies were very cynical. Sometimes they're hard to watch, certain parts in the original series. They're a little dated, but there's certain parts where beatings and lobotomies and things take place. This movie is very much in the cynical realm of Planet of the Apes. The first Rise is very optimistic. It's probably the most optimistic Planet of the Apes movie there ever was or ever will be. This one is on the opposite end, except the ending, somewhat hopeful. Not to really spoil anything, but this movie, it's such an emotional beating in certain respects. I'll also say this too. It's not a particularly action-packed movie. There's like, come to think of it, none of these reboot movies are very action-packed. I mean, maybe Rise seems like that because it's such a short movie. Dawn, there's a couple action scenes here and there, but I never feel like, oh, they just place sprinkle an action scene here in case you're getting bored. No, a lot of these movies are very dialogue-driven, very dialogue and idea-driven. And that's especially the case with this movie. It's very much about Caesar and his quest for revenge and his mission against the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson. And let me just say, Woody Harrelson, one of the big criticisms of these new Apes movies is that the human characters are a little lacking. I would say Woody Harrelson's character, the Colonel, is probably the best human character we've seen in this franchise in a long time. He's a great character, and he's more complicated than the trailers make him out to be. That's the other thing too. The marketing, I mean, I liked all the trailers and stuff. They look great, but that's not the kind of movie this is. That movie makes you think it's like a 90-minute like action-packed revenge movie where, you just hate the Colonel's guts because he's not complicated, and Caesar is, yeah, he might be a little angry, but he's the good guy. No, this movie's a lot more complicated than that, actually, which is nice to hear, especially with this franchise. and the direction that the older movies went, and I'm glad that these movies exist, and they really do prove you can do something somewhat different with your source material or a reboot. I would say they're up there with the Dark Knight movies as some of the best reboots we've ever had. Honestly, I think this is like my favorite modern trilogy. I would say it's like each film I think builds off one another, but builds off the next very well, and they build off of each other very nicely. And I can't wait to watch the three of them in like a marathon. I've only seen like the first two in like a pairing. I didn't get to the screening of like all three of them, but I will definitely watch all three of them together at some point when the third one comes out on Blu-ray. Which I'm looking forward to the Blu-ray of that because this was a great movie. I've seen it twice already. Again, don't bring young children to this. And it's just if you have a kid who's very antsy and they need action to happen, this is not that kind of movie. It's very very dialogue driven, like I said. Very much a lot of suffering happens in this movie too. It's not a lot of action. It's suffering. Like this should be called POWs of the Planet of the Apes. That's what this movie should be called, honestly. Anyway, did you guys see Planet of the Apes? What did you think of it? Any other recent summer movies you want me to talk about? Because there's a couple that I've seen, but I haven't talked about on this channel. So if you want me to talk about something, just let me know in the comments. Adios.